Good morning. Thank you for being with me today. Today I'm going to share the completed strip of slow stitching that I did. It was something that I shared with you and I found that you seemed to be enjoying, but it was also aimed at me for finding out the ins and outs of how to deal with slow stitching. As you can see, we're going to start a new project today. The project is going to be a cover panel for my altered book journal. We'll get back to that because first I want to share the piece that I am finishing up. I'm doing a buttonhole stitch around the outside, and that I will work on probably today and tomorrow. But here is the finished piece. I am quite tickled. I have learned so much. Let's get up close and personal now so that you can see what I've done with it. This piece, these two leaves, this flower, stem, and leaves are bits of lace that I fussy cut and applied around the original piece of fabric that I fussy cut and laid down. Here I used, on a tiny little piece at the side here, I used rice stitch and some straight stitches to tack that down. This piece is sewn down tightly enough. Look, I found what stitchers always look for, some of my red basting thread, which I'll pull out to remind myself to cut it off. And then I added this piece of an old bit of trim that I had. This trim, this piece, these pieces are all stab stitched. In other words, just over and over attached to the background fabrics. This one, as you can see, is a lazy daisy with some metallic copper French knots in the center. Now, the next section is a section that we worked on together. If you will remember, this is the piece of gingham that I put cross stitches in. This bit is more of this, of course, but more of it, as you can see, and I decided to make that like a central motif. This is a little bit more. This is just lazy daisy chains lined up. It's the same to carry out this bit over here. This is DMC, found in Michaels and etc. And this is rayon. You can see that it has a quite high sheen down here. However, I have to say that of any piece of any bit of thread, any bit of fiber, any bit of anything that I have, this makes me the craziest because it fights. It's so soft and so slippery that it can be a little. I can go to war with it very easily. In fact, I can be reduced to using bad words. So this I thought would be fun to fill up this space a little bit. I put some diagonal straight stitches on this piece here. Up in this one, as you can see, I used the copper metallic thread, and I just put this bit across the top right here. I used the lightest pink that I hadn't used thus far, just to tack down these pieces close to the edge of this of the entire piece. Now, let's get back to here now. On this bit, I fussy cut out a piece of lace and used it to cover what was underneath, which was fine because that's the point of all of this exercise, and stab stitched this all the way down. In other words, came up with the thread outside and stabbed down into it, up on the outside, stabbed down into it. So hence the stab stitch. Now, this was the original piece that we worked on. It was that piece of linen that I put down and attached with pink and yellow, as you can see. And then we did, in the second, I believe the second video, I laid down the crossbars and wove them one under the other so that they wouldn't move. But they did give me the places to put down my little cross stitches to hold it down and just make it look a little bit different. Alrighty. And then I used this very contrasting piece of silk, this color, to put down 1, 2, 3 of these. These are straight stitches with a French knot on the end. It's that simple. Up, down over here, come back up a tiny couple of threads away, make a French knot, down it goes. So easy to do and yet so attractive. I decided that it wasn't enough. The spaces were too wide, so I decided to come back later and include some of the same thread that I used here to put veins on these leaves. This is a piece of this is another piece of the fussy cut fabric. And I'm liking the fussy cutting of a piece of fabric and laying it down. I think it really does add to this. So that's a plus. That's something very positive that I've learned. The art of fussy cutting your fabrics and then stitching on top of it just to add a little bit of a personal touch. And then over here, I really enjoy doing the veins on these leaves. The last piece of this over here, the opposite colorway, and stab stitch again. This and these are were down well enough on the paper, oh my, slip, on the fabric, after I stab stitched these 3 pieces of lace. There was absolutely very little reason for me to do anything much more than to add some pretty, some pretty crosses just to bring the eye over to this side. These were my experimental pieces, and I have enjoyed doing them beyond measure. I believe I had not quite finished these stems with leaves. I needed to finish some leaves up, and so I just sat and picked away at this in different areas until I decided, closed my eyes and said, okay, you're finished now. And what I have left here to do is the buttonhole stitch around the edge, and I'll show you the back. Okay. There's absolutely nothing wrong with doing this. It's going to be attached to something, and why not? It's your own personal work, and no one is going to be looking at the other side, except for you, of course, because I wanted to share. I'm so happy that the way this came out, but let me tell you, there were 2 or 3 bad words involved in this bit right here. I don't know why it is that this fights me like it does, but oh well, I think I won in the end. Now, I just wanted to share that with you. I'm going to, this is some perle cotton from, I believe from Joann or Michaels, and it's the finer one. And I'm going to be finishing the buttonhole stitch, and then I'm going to put it up a little bit over here at my workplace so I can admire it, and then now I'm ready to go on. I've learned quite a lot here, and the only way to learn this is to learning by doing. So let's get this out of the way, way out of the way. Now, I have made a template for the front for the front of this journal. And I'll show you what I'm planning on for the background of this cover. Okay, this is cotton wadding. Some people also call it cotton batting, which is basically the cotton that is used on the inside of quilts. It is so soft and heavenly and delicious, and it feels so good. It's called Warm and Natural. The brand is Warm and Natural. I got this on Etsy. It's not pure white. I did not want pure white. I wanted off-white, and it is vaguely a bit just off enough to make me happy. And the price was so right in comparison to what they were trying to sell. You could have done a king-size quilt for a California king bed for what they were. The package was, and this is here. You can see just enough, just what I wanted. Cotton wadding, also called cotton batting, but Warm and Natural is the name. Now, and feels delicious besides warm and natural. I have decided to cover the front of this cover with a piece of slow stitching, and I'm leaving some space on the ends. I don't know how I'm going to attack those, but in case there was anything else, anything reaching out at the edge of what I do with my stitchery, there's a little room for it. Because of these, this dark print here, I'm going to be doing something to cover that section, so I thought that it would come up and over, and this space here would give me ample room to play my heart out on this. So this is another thing that's going over here. On a foray to Hobby Lobby, my first in months, I was able to find an off-white color. I have white and I have 2 shades of neutral, and I said, I wonder if, and look what's there. Oh, yes, it was there. Now, here's the plan. Going to cut out with my fabric shears. Going to cut out the piece for here. There we are. This is going to be right here and right up to here. Or do I want this inner one? Well, aren't you being pernickety, Carol? Let's just decide and do it. Okay. We're not doing the Sistine Chapel again. Alrighty. I have a piece here. And oh, this feels so delicious. You're going to love it. I found in my drawer air and water soluble ink, disappearing ink. Of course, a person who doesn't automatically believe that, so I'm going to cut inside. Yes, I am. I'm going to cut inside. That's all we're going to do with that, because after all, this is stitchery. And so this will be the let me get it so that it is perpendicular to me. Now, perfection? No. So, that done. Drape that over the back of the other chair. Bingo. And now a piece of this netting, because I've decided that, I don't know why, I just do want a piece of this netting over, and if I'm going to make it larger than necessary, because I can always cut it off. And oh my, isn't that one something else? Okay, let's do a little bit better here. And at the same time, let's not trim it down to non-existence. Better. As good as it's going to get, because I have a plan for the edges. Now, let's just have this and here, and let's just put on this bit. So this, okay, this is going to cover the wadding, and I'm going to sew down using regular off-white thread to hold this this netting down on top. And then I'm going to trim. And then my plan is to use some of this off-white sari silk to, let me pull this down so that you can get an idea of where we're going to end up there. Not see any of that, but I'm going to use some I'm going to cut these bits of sari into pieces, and going to use these as the frame for the under layer of this piece, and going to frame it with the silk, and I think the colors will work wellish together. And so let's get to business here now. I have gone through my carry-all and cleared it out. I'm using DMC number 950 for the to stitch the netting to the wadding, and no, the regular off-white thread stitches the netting to the wadding, and this DMC is going to stitch the sari silk to make the frame. So we're ready, and this is ready to be to have fabric and what have you added to it. And I have treated myself, because believe it or not, I did not have a pin cushion, and I wanted to have thread ready so that you wouldn't have to wait to see me threading needles. That's not what your time needs. So let's just use some pins here and there. To hold this netting down. I do hope you have been well, and that you, if you're in the United States, that you enjoy this weekend without subjecting yourself to all of the possible things that can happen if we're not very, very careful. But little ingenuity and fun can be had. Alrighty. I'm probably putting in, overkilling with pins, because my natural inclination would be to do that in red thread, and I'm just absolutely decided that I'm going to get into the modern world kicking and screaming. So, let's get out a thread, and off we go. I'm going to leave these basting threads on, and I'm going to work on top of it. If anything shows, that's okay. Now, just going to do some large running stitches here. And that's nice. They hardly show, but they are there, which is a good thing. I'm going to do, this will be 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to do 4 rows because I do find this this basting very, very enjoyable, as the stitching is for the rest of the project. And I'm certainly not going to inflict watching me do this. I will put it under housekeeping, and I will come back when this is attached and the edging is trimmed off. I'll join you in a little bit. Well, while I was stitching, of course I was having a think, because that's the point of stitchery. Your mind gets to solve all of the problems of the world. This piece of these pieces are approximately 1.5 inches wide. I ironed them out because they certainly didn't look like this in my plastic container. And I've also decided definitely that I'm not going to make it one piece across. I'm going to make it have a little bit more variety and a little bit more interest. I'm going to cut this. I'm going to cut this into chunks and attach it that way. I also have to let you know that I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows vertically, and 1 row top and bottom horizontally. Couldn't help myself. Couldn't just help myself. So, let's do the first piece. Here and here, which is about right. Now, I don't know. Here's the question mark that we have, a problem we have to solve. Not a problem, but a stitchery issue that we have to have going right now. Oh, and I don't know if I told you that I got this pincushion on Etsy. I just looked up pincushions, and I found this beautiful handmade piece. And if any of you are interested, I will drop a question in the comments, and I will look up and see who it was that I got this from, which shop. Came very quickly. The condition here is just absolutely beautiful. And this, of course, is lovely. And it cost $10, free shipping. Now, here's our question. I have this floss doubled. There are 2 strands here. I'm not sure whether I'm going to like it with 2 strands. So the only way to find out is to do it. And I'm just going to do a running stitch straight across here. Want up a little bit from the bottom. Yes, I do. Okay. Now do I want two strands? Well, that's a decision. Let's make it. We'll make an executive decision. I think I like it. Maybe I don't. Yes, because it's, yes, wear and tear. Pulling, hugging, shoving, stitching. Now I'm going to put one more stitch in here and not go close to the end because I'm going to line up my other piece of fabric. If I don't like it, I'll just take it out. All right, let's have another piece. And down we go. The fronts I want to try to match a little bit, and if they're not, that's okay too. And let's decide if we're happy. I think I'm happy. I do. Still not sure of the two strands. I like that frame on that very much. I used rather a heavy needle, probably heavier than I needed. Lesson learned. Always use the finest needle that you can manage with. Well, aren't you going to be a pickle? And that's only silk and wadding, but we're hung up probably on something in the wadding. Now, there's a piece of metal in this leather at the tip. There we go. And down in to anchor it. But, well, two things. Well, I guess I am happy that I cut the silk, because I do think it looks a little bit better, but I'm not sure yet. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do the same thing at the other end with one strand and executive decision time. I'm just going to leave this one in here and go down here, and I'll be back and we'll have a look. Well, here we are with the choices. And I think I'm voting for single. This is a little bit too heavy now that I look at it. So, I'm going to put on the pieces, and then we'll do show and tell. And although there isn't going to be much to show and tell, since we just worked on the background of this book cover, and here's the book in question, and here is the piece of slow stitch that we're going to be working with. Okay, I think I will stop now and get back and do this little bit of finishing up. And if you have enjoyed the beginning of this slow stitch project, please give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, and I would appreciate your subscribing to my channel. Bye until next time. Soonest.